Pizza deliverers of Reddit, what's the most awkward situation you've ever been in at someone's doorstep? Not so much awkward as scary, but whatever. I'm a girl, and when I was delivering pizzas I was around 18 to 19. Pretty scrawny looking thing. Anyways, I had a big delivery to a guy's party in his apartment. The apartment was on the top floor, so after hauling about 10 pizzas up 3 flights of stairs I looked considerably frazzled. The guy opens the door, and there's about 15 men in the apartment and he says I should come in and put them down on the table. Now, I know better than to just enter people's houses, but this table was right near the door and there was no way I was going to be able to take the cash with 3 pizza bags draped over my arms. So I take one step towards the table and hear the door slam shut behind me. He locks the door and says, "We got one," and all these guys start snickering. And although it turned out to be a joke, albeit not a funny one, it was one of the most terrifying moments in my life. I've delivered pizzas for 8 years. I've seen it all. People effing, people doing drugs, naked people, people arguing. You name it, I've seen it. But to this day by far the most awkward thing for me is when the little kid answers the door and just stares at you. Just stares with those beady little kid eyes, like they are just looking deep into your soul. And then the parents finally realize that you have their dinner, and then they have to look around for money for 5 minutes, while this tiny little child is just giving you the stare down. To end all stare downs, their eyes never wandering. The parents finally find the damn money and come to the door and they are all like, "Oh Johnny, did you say hi to the nice man?" And the stare continues. Beady-eyed child knows my wrongdoings. Many moons ago, dissolve. I delivered to one house, just as a massive storm was ending. Rain was still pouring off of this woman's roof. Her small child was staring at me through a screen door the way you've described here, and she was running around looking for money as you've also described here. I met the child's stare with my own. Neither of us blinked. We were locked in a deadly struggle for dominance. She stared. I stared. Deadlock. I reached out my hand and cupped it beside me, just under the roof. Water filled my palm. Her gaze only wavered slightly. I brought my hand back into view. I raised it, aiming right for her. She cracked a smile. I tossed the water at her, showering her with what little hadn't already run down my arm. She burst out laughing. Just then her mom came into view and was none the wiser. I miss stuff like that at work. Just the moment. Sharing that spontaneous moment with another human being, tiny and unfinished though they may be. I miss those little unexpected moments in my current office job. Girl answers the door and yells to her sister, "Your boyfriend's here." She comes running down in her bra and underwear. Gets to the door, sees a confused looking pizza guy, so she screams and runs away while yelling profanities at her sister. The sister loses it laughing and gives me a $8 tip. Solid deliver 10/10ths would deliver again. My first day, first delivery ever. It was to a Motel 6. The guy answered wearing red pumps, a purple and black kitty cat thong, and a pink felt blouse. Told him I liked his purse and walked out with a $20 tip. I showed up to deliver a pizza on a hot summer night and the guy who ordered it was passed out flat on his back in the living room just inside the screen door. The TV was blasting so loud he would have had a hard time hearing me knocking and shouting, even if he hasn't been unconscious. After about a minute he stirred, got himself up and paid. I think he intended to give me 2 10s and a 1 for the $18 pizza, but he was so out of it, he gave me 2 20s and a $27 tip. I work for Domino's in Glasgow, and we deliver to this especially shite block of high-rise flats known as Kennishead. The average inhabitant of this area is adorned with Adidas trackies, trainers and a cap with the label still on. We are not allowed to go up the lifts in the buildings anyone, because so many drivers have been robbed. At least if we stay in the lobby we get the chance to make a run for it. Anyway, I'd called the customer down from the intercom outside the flat, stepped into the lobby. The lifts usually take 5 to 10 minutes to make it down, because some cunt has always gone and dragged their knuckles up and down the buttons for every floor. This provided ample time for a questionable weak guy and his even younger looking girlfriend to approach me. I doubt either of them were much past 16, and the girl seemed pretty boozed up. The awkwardness began upon the generous request, "Oh I jizz some pizza." She might GE a blow. It was difficult to maintain composure at this point, and it must have been evident on my face. The girl reassured me, "It's alright, I'll eat the pizza after." Doing my best not to offend. Knife crime is pretty rife in such areas. I politely declined. The following 5 minutes of waiting seemed to last a lifetime. I mean, it really was hideously awkward. They just stared at me. Finally I hear the ping of the elevator and a middle-aged woman steps out. To my surprise, the woman called the kids over and they started chatting. Pretty sure it was their mum. I hurriedly parted with the pizzas and got the F out of there. This one lady ordered a sandwich which was just at the $6 minimum for delivery. Total was $5.99 plus tax. Of course I come to the door and it's an old lady. I tell her the price is $6.34 and she goes off on a tangent about how it was supposed to be $5.99. I had to sit there and explain sales tax to her. She shut the door and came back with a calculator, and I had to explain to her how to multiply by the tax rate and showed her why it was not 5.99 like her coupon said. Makes you wonder what she does at stores. Somewhat awkward, but pretty hilarious from when I worked as a delivery driver for a sushi restaurant. I went to take an order to this one apartment, and as I got to the door, I heard a guy yell, "Are you effing kidding me? Why did you get the caffeine-free Coke? You know I hate it." Immediately afterwards I heard a woman loudly say they were on sale, just like them unribbed condoms you got yesterday that you know I hate. I had to keep myself from bursting into laughter, so I ran down the hall to try and get it together and finish the delivery. I had to fight a guy off after delivering a pizza. He was very drunk and thought I was a taxi, so he kept on trying to get in my car. I literally kicked him out of the passenger side and sped off into the night. Passenger door open until the next hard right. As a delivery driver in a area, I've seen plenty of There's one night that's always going to stick with me though. I was dropping off a small pizza and a sandwich to a room in the nearby motel. This motel is that place in your neighborhood, the kind of place that you pass by and think to yourself, damn, if I ever need to buy crystal meth, I know where to go. I enter the building and walk down the hall to find the customer's room. It's very late on a weeknight, so the motel is understandably silent. Then bang, the sound of something very heavy hitting the inside of a door. I hear faint crying and another bang against the door. I stop in my tracks and wait to hear something else before I do anything. This isn't the first time I've heard domestic violence occurring. Sometimes it's just what I'm hearing. A push or a slap and usually two people screaming at each other. Couples fighting. Friends in an argument. I witness lots of things. But something was different this time. I hear a deep voice yelling at someone. Can't quite make out what he said. Then a much louder scream from a woman's voice and another bang against the wall. I can make out the sentence "stay away from us" being yelled by the woman. The us part was like a cold chill through my spine. I called the police. I didn't even consider finding the customer's door first. Just put my bag down and pulled out my phone. I waited right next to the door, nervously waiting for help as I continued to listen to the yelling and crying on the other side. Officers arrived a few minutes later. The guy that opened the door looked completely normal and pretended to be surprised as the police pushed the door in. They pulled a woman out of the room. She was bloody and in a shock-induced rage towards the man. I found the customer's room and uneventfully dropped off the order. On my way out I saw the police carrying a baby out of the room. Sometimes when I look back at this night, I get an overwhelming feeling of disgust thinking about what that man was doing in that motel room. What's worse is thinking about what the man would have been doing had I not stopped and done something. Stopped some very bad domestic violence in a terrible motel. Maybe even stopped child abuse as well. Once had a delivery to a house that was in one of the rich neighborhoods. I pull up to the house, drive down a long driveway, and when I finally get to the door, I see an envelope taped to it. There is nothing written on it, except Domino's on one side and leave on doorstep on the other. Inside is enough money to cover the pizza and a $10 tip. I look around kind of awkwardly before setting the pizzas on the doormat and putting the money in my pocket. While I'm walking back to my car, I turn back around to look at the house, and lo and behold, the pizzas are no longer on the doormat. I didn't hear a door, and it hadn't been but 4 or 5 seconds since I had turned around. I also noticed as I was getting back in my car that there were cameras all around the perimeter of the house on the walls, painted the same color as the house to blend in. I drove away and not a single F was given. Not exactly awkward, but this happened about a month or so ago. It's about 3:30 am. We are open late as F on a Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever F you, and I'm on my last delivery of the night, 2 larges, with a total of about $31 after knocking for about 2 minutes. This guy, shirtless, armed with some dry puke on his shoulder, stumbles to the door and opens it immediately. He starts tilting forward like he's gonna blow chunks all over me. He turns it into a ludgie, turns around and spits it off the front porch and starts reaching for the pizzas. $31. Man, I say, oh right, I gotta pay you, he says so. He disappears into the house for a good 5 minutes. I check Reddit. He comes back with a 20. He hands it to me, reaches for the pizza boxes again, and I say $31, man. He says, can I just get one for the $20? And I explain that I'll have to call the store and ask them what they want me to do. He disappears into the house for yet another 5 minutes, only for him to stumble back to the door and yell, just take it, and slam the door. So I made $20 and got 2 free pizzas.